let's begin. I grew up homeschooled, so you know what that means. My dad was our principal, and my mom was our pregnant teacher. It seemed like she was always pregnant. I don't have a clear memory of my first little sister's birth, as I was only 2. But I do remember the moment I met my first little brother. We were standing outside in the cold as the hospital put a ban on kids visiting due to a recent flu epidemic. When they wheeled her out, she was carrying a beautiful baby boy. Then, 2 years later, the youngest of our family was born. I had just started my very first day of ballet. And after, with my hair in a bun, I grabbed my bag and we rushed to the hospital. As I held him for the first time in my arms, I remember thinking, this is a gift. And as I grew up, and every time someone mentioned abortion as their right, all I could think of were those special moments of holding my siblings for the first time. And just think, in several states, hours before that moment, my mother had the right to kill my brother. And many Americans accept and celebrate that. A series of interviews done by Fox News shows that 39% of participants, when asked the question, are you pro-life or pro-choice, answered neither or both. 39%. That 39% are personally pro-life, but not publicly, meaning they would never get an abortion, but they're not going to stop anyone else from doing it. Imagine an America where that 39% spoke out and became publicly pro-life. In this speech, I hope to persuade you to become a bold and public advocate for every living person by defining life, proving a fetus has rights, and addressing opposing arguments. In 1776, when the Founding Fathers wrote the Declaration of Independence, they stated life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These 3 ideals, promised as our unalienable rights, form the foundation of the American government. The government, designed to represent and protect its born or legalized citizens, should do so inclusively and blindly. Never should the government be fueled to pick which American lives it's choosing to protect. Unfortunately, here are Americans every single day being denied their rights due to a war over whether they're even alive or not. Now the other side will tell you it is not a life, therefore it does not have rights. But I believe, as all pro-lifers do, that it is a beautiful and unique life that the government is called to protect. If all pro-life Americans believe this, why are they silent about these issues? Is it because they're not armed with the proper facts to defend life? But first, we must define a life. So how can you define a life? Is it a beating heart, the ability to breathe, think, or act as a fully functioning person? According to the U.S. Department of Health, people with heart issues need a pacemaker to keep their heart going. And sometimes people in a coma need a ventilator to keep them breathing. You would not kill a person with a pacemaker or ventilator just because they're living with assistance. The same applies to a baby in the mother's womb. The baby needs its mother's nourishment to grow. Or a toddler learning to walk and talk needs its parents' loving attention to become a fully functioning person. Does living in a state of dependence disqualify you to count as a valid life? And when you say life starts anywhere, but at conception, you have to then state an alternative time, or prove what changes from one second to the next to turn a non-living fetus into a valid life. And so far, no one has successfully done that. Faced with such issues, we can only conclude that life starts at its simplest form, the very beginning, conception. And when all pro-life Americans finally speak out that life does start at conception, the government will follow and must agree to extend its ideals to that moment as well. The pro-choice side says that we want to take away women's right to choose. This is false. Stephen Crowder says, "You act as though I'm anti-choice. I support 4 choices: contraceptives, abstinence, adoption, and motherhood. The only one I have a problem with is the 5th one, murder." A final argument is, it's my body, it's my choice. This is absolutely absurd. While everyone should and does have the right to do whatever they want with their bodies, the baby is not her body. Just because the baby relies on aspects of a woman to survive does not make it her body. As Hunter Avallone says, when you get inside your car, you do not become the car. Sure, you rely on parts of the car to keep you alive, like the seatbelt, airbag, and the car properly functioning. But you are not the car. Women are being misinformed by the media, telling them that it is a sexist, patriarchal society that are taking away their rights. An example of this is an article on BuzzFeed, which everyone has access to, titled, "Here's What It's Really Like to Have an Abortion." It states, "I had just started my dream job, and when I read the positive strip, I knew what I had to do." This woman chose her dream job over her own child's life. Convenience is not an excuse for murder. Another anonymous woman states, "My wanted pregnancy had a severe fetal abnormality that would have resulted in miscarriage, stillbirth, or child who would have only survived a few months after birth." So they gave up and aborted the 12-week-old baby because there was a chance it could be in pain or die? Ironic, right? But I think living a life in pain is far more valuable than a life not lived at all. For example, my best friend's grandmother was pregnant for her father. The doctors told her son's life would be short and or miserable due to a muscle disorder called cerebral palsy. They told her she would be better off having an abortion. But the brave mother refused, gave her son a chance at life. And now, he is over 50 years old, with 8 kids, 3 grandkids, 1 more on the way, and a love for the Lord. If the mother had listened to the doctors, I would not have my best friend today. Again, convenience is not an excuse for murder. The media is pushing this agenda, that it is okay, you're right, or even trendy to get an abortion. If more media sources spoke out, that 39% would be more likely to be publicly pro-life. Be like the small amount of artists who through their art are spreading the message of life. In the song Happy Birthday by Flipside, it tells a story of a father singing to his unborn child who was taken away from him for a gruesome abortion. Another tribute to this idea is a popular Broadway show and movie with underlying pro-life themes. When a hard-working waitress becomes pregnant with her abusive husband, she decides the baby is a gift, not a curse, and raises a beautiful baby girl. And finally, in Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss, Horton goes against what everyone else is saying to protect an almost invisible life. In doing so, he saved millions of Whos. These examples are just the beginning of artists using their talents to spread the message of life. Some say that some American lives are not worthy of protection by their government, such as babies resulted from unplanned or teenage pregnancies. While these are troubling issues in America, there are superior ways to deal with and prevent such issues. As I mentioned before, adoption, abstinence, access to birth control, and motherhood. We're not without issues. These options vastly outweigh the grim solution that is abortion. As the Declaration of Independence states, the government should protect all life, and no one can cheat the future generations' right to life. But we need help. So many people will not personally get an abortion, but won't stop anyone else from doing it. This is putting limits on God-given lives of America. So I ask you to not just be privately pro-life, but be publicly. And when you make that choice, the life and liberty of millions of unborn children will be celebrated and valued. After all, a person is a person, no matter